They say it's always the ordinary days that carry the weight of the extraordinary. I never thought I'd share this, never imagined I'd live it. But some truths are too heavy to carry in silence. I'm Elaine, 64 years old, and for the last 2 decades, I've been a single mother to Jason. He's 22 now. Smart, kind, quietly protective in ways that once reminded me of his father, before he left. We were a team. Through every loss, every milestone, every lonely holiday, our bond grew stronger. Not just mother and son, but 2 souls surviving side by side. He was my reason, my grounding, my quiet heartbeat in a house too often filled with silence. That night it was cold, not just outside but in the walls of our home. The kind of cold that finds the cracks in your soul and settles there. Jason had been pushing himself too hard lately. College finals, job stress, barely sleeping. He looked pale, worn. He said he wasn't feeling well and asked if he could lie down in my room just for a while. It had happened before. Years ago. Back when he was a boy with nightmares and I was the only thing that made them fade. I didn't question it. I pulled the heavy blanket over him, tucked him in. And then, slowly, I lay beside him. Just for warmth, I told myself. Just for comfort. The bed creaked slightly as I shifted into place beside him. Familiar. His body close, his breathing slow and even. It felt like one of those quiet, unspoken moments from childhood. Only, it wasn't. At first, I brushed off the closeness. Told myself I was overthinking. But the stillness between us felt different. His arm gently moved across me, soft and slow, as if testing whether I'd shift away. I didn't. My heart thudded in my chest, confused and guilty. I stared at the ceiling, pretending I didn't feel his breath against my neck. His warmth seeped through me like a memory I didn't want to admit I longed for. I froze, half from fear, half from something I couldn't name. I convinced myself it was nothing, that he was half asleep, that I was the only one who felt it. But then he moved again, deliberately this time. His hand grazed mine. Lightly. Too light for an accident. He didn't speak. Neither did I. We just lay there, tangled in the silence. And then, his eyes met mine. Jason's gaze wasn't one I recognized. It wasn't the wide-eyed boy needing comfort. It was soft, steady, searching. I saw confusion there, yes, but also something else. Something I wasn't ready to see mirrored in myself. Smiled weakly. Tried to keep it maternal. Harmless. But inside, my chest burned with the shame of how long I held that gaze. Then his hand found my arm. Not possessive. Not suggestive. Just a touch. A quiet, lingering hold that said, I don't know how to say what I'm feeling. And I didn't know how to stop it. I should have said something. I should have pulled away. Instead I stayed. Not because I wanted to cross that line, but because I didn't know where it was anymore. A part of me cried out to stop, to run. Another part wanted to feel something again. Something alive. Something beyond the roles I'd worn for so long. His fingers brushed a lock of hair from my face, slow and reverent. And I broke. Not into movement. Not into action. But inside. 1,000 memories, birthdays, scraped knees, bedtime stories, collided with this unbearable present. And still I couldn't speak. Jason finally pulled back. His face flushed with emotion. Sorry, he said, voice cracked and small. I didn't mean to make it weird. He didn't look at me. Just the floor. I couldn't answer. My mouth stayed closed. I wanted to tell him it was okay, that nothing had changed. But everything had. He left the room in silence. The door shut with a soft click that felt like a verdict. I sat there, the chill returning. Alone with the echo of a closeness that should never have existed, but did. Not in action. But in tension. In feeling. Later that night, a knock pulled me out of my thoughts. I expected it to be Jason again. Instead it was Stephen. My neighbor and old friend, someone who's always lingered on the edge of something more. He looked concerned. Said I seemed off. I smiled, lied, said I was fine. Just a quiet evening. He looked at me longer than necessary, as if he could see the storm beneath my skin. Then he left. When I turned around, Jason was there, watching, the same unreadable expression on his face. He walked toward me slowly, as though trying to decide whether to speak at all. "Mom," he said softly, "I don't know what I'm supposed to do with how I feel right now." I stared at him, heart pounding. He wasn't trying to blame me, wasn't trying to act on anything. He just didn't know how to carry the weight of it. And maybe neither did I. I placed a hand on his. Not as a mother, not as a woman, just as someone who also felt lost. "We're both confused," I said. "But we don't have to figure it out tonight." He nodded slowly, then leaned in, not for a kiss, not for more, but to rest his head on my shoulder. And I let him. I held him. Because underneath it all, he was still my boy. We sat like that for a long time, caught between the comfort of connection and the ache of boundaries bent too far. In the stillness, I realized something vital. Sometimes what we need most is space. To breathe, to think, to return to ourselves. Eventually, he stood and walked to his room. No words, no glances, just quiet steps on a floor that now felt unfamiliar. I stayed behind, wondering where this path would take us. Not to something wrong, but hopefully back to something whole. With clarity, with grace. Because the love between a mother and son is meant to protect, not confuse. And I owed it to both of us to honor that. Thank you for listening to this story. If it made you reflect or stirred something inside you, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing. Sometimes, the most uncomfortable truths help us understand the depth of the human experiences.